day, great week, wherever you are and whatever day it is for you. As always, it is Friday on the podcast, so we're bringing that good Friday energy to you. It is nice and cloudy here in sunny Seattle, and as I mentioned on the last episode, I'm really excited for spring. The trees outside my daughter's window are starting to bud, and it's like February. I didn't feel like that started until April. These trees are confused, but got me excited. So I hope you guys are equally excited for spring around the corner. It's a good day for a second reason, though, because we got Vineet Duda with us. Vinny from Hive NY. He deals in rental arbitrage. So, any of you guys out there, you're looking to get into real estate, you don't have a lot of capital to deploy, you want to know a good, relatively inexpensive way to get started. This is the episode to listen to. It's a really interesting strategy that works in kind of the more expensive markets. Vinny will go into it deeper. But Vinny, yeah, I'm excited to jump into this. Thanks for hopping on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we always like to start with stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how you got here?
Yeah, so just like a New Yorker, used to work in finance, and then one day had a realization I hate my bosses, and just wanted to leave that W-2 trap, and was sitting on an idea of this rental arbitrage business for a while. I really got into it because I was actually renting to a friend that became a friend over the course of 10 years. I sublet my apartment in New York while I was doing consulting work. So just to kind of save my money, right? Like in your early 20s, found someone to sublet my room while I was traveling to San Francisco for work. And that individual decided to stay in my apartment for 10 years. And I just kept renewing my lease, and we just, and he would just pay me rent and just made a little off the top. Um, like all my family members, friends, family said, "Why are you leaving banking? Why are you leaving your W-2? Don't do it." So listen to the voices. Never went down that entrepreneurial journey. Then eventually, fast forward to 2022, started working at a bank here in New York. I'd rather not say the name just because. Um, and just was kind of like just throwing up before going into work and just stressed. I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't fun. Like I shouldn't be throwing up before going into work, working.
That's a good
Like I'm gonna
litmus test. If you're throwing up going into work, you should probably change something.
right. So then since I was like, hey, I've been renting to this guy for 10 years. Why don't I just try scaling this concept, right? And fast forward, started reaching out to landlords, um, trying to sign master leases. New York is pretty competitive. So targeting some of the smaller landlords was the main focal point, and primarily a little outside of Manhattan initially, and then started expanding back into Manhattan, and then now back outside of Manhattan.
Awesome. So I'm going to pause you there because you've kind of you've used some terms that people who aren't familiar with the strategy, I don't think they'll understand. So why don't you first kind of give us an overview of what rental arbitrage is? What is the strategy? How does it work?
Yeah, so I guess my business model is right, rental arbitrage with a corporate co-living component, right? I'm not just moving one tenant in. My concept is rent by the room because it's New York City, right? People need roommates. Everyone has a roommate in the New York City market. So pretty much I reach out to landlords, give them the pitch. I sign a master lease with them, and then I convert the space into. I'll take maybe a one bedroom and convert it into two additional bedrooms, so it'll become a three-bedroom flex, as they call it here in New York. So I'll
Wait, wait,
make.
wait. Pause. So you take a one bedroom apartment and you turn it into a three bedroom?
Yeah, just like I said, right? Like and it's not like all formats kind of can fit this.
Yeah.
It's depending on the size of the living room and things like that. And the spaces are decent size, right? They can fill a full size mattress, a desk. There's just no living room technically
Interesting.
sometimes, or
Yeah.
the living
Okay.
room, dining room is relatively small.
Yeah.
And like New York City is great for this because you're not spending time in your apartment, right? You're going to work, then you're going to go be social or the gym, whatever it is, right? The only time you're entering your apartment typically, and this is probably pre-COVID, like, obviously, Work from home is pretty prevalent, but a lot of the banks have now started requiring people to come back to work 5 days a week. So you're
Hmm.
not really spending time in your apartment in New York City. You're always out and about. So the room is just there to sleep, and people, and these are young 20-year-olds, early 30-year-olds that are just trying to save on a high cost of living. So that's why it kind of works.
Yeah.
The other concept to this is that it's kind of month to month flexible leasing. So you get a lot of people that are from out of town that are here on a project basis. There's Fashion Week. There's, hey, I'm here for an engineering conference or engineering project, so I just need something in the midterm to long term. I've had tenants stay 4 years or 3 years in my places. They want to land in a place that's turnkey ready, and then they're like, oh my God, it costs a lot of money to move in New York. I got to pay a broker fee. I got to put up a security deposit. I got to make 40 times rent, right? Like if you think about New York rent prices, you're talking about like $160,000 minimum starting to sign a lease. And then you got to put up at least 20,000 to move in, right? Between a broker fee, security deposit, first month's rent, furnishings, that's a lot of money for young 20-year-olds just starting out of college, or just anybody for that matter, right? Just to move into a place. um so then we make these apartments turnkey ready, and people just kind of bring their bags and that's it.
Nice.
The other
So I want
go
to I want to just put a little cap on the whole strategy in itself. So you go to a landlord, somebody who's renting a long term rental. So they have a one bed, one bath, whatever, and you sign a lease with them. You sign a master
Yep.
lease, like you said, and then you sublet
Hmm.
that rental. If it's a one bath, it's crazy that you get three, but you sublet it to other people for a markup. So you rent it at, I'm just going to use round numbers here. I know it's not a
Yep.
thousand, but I'm going to use 1,000 as the what you're renting from the owner for. You rent
Yep.
your master lease as 1,000, and then you rent to those three people who are coming into that one bedroom. You rent each for, I don't know, 500, 750, whatever it is, and you
Yep.
take the spread.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love this strategy. I've never done it myself, but I love the strategy in concept because it is a great way for somebody who wants to get into real estate, who wants to see that cash flow. It's a great way to do it inexpensively. Real estate itself, you guys have, if you've been
Yeah.
listening to this show, you know that we're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. You don't need that for this type of strategy in order to get started, and there's a ton of cash flow that can be had. So break down the numbers for us when a typical deal. I know, I'm sure they all differ, but break down a one deal for us. The numbers, what you rented it for, what you furnished it for, and what you're renting it out for.
Yeah, sure. So I'll use like round numbers just for the conversation. So let's say, you rent a one bedroom apartment for $5,000. Then you put up the flex walls. The flex walls are depending on the type, right? Some
And sorry,
buildings don't allow.
is that a real in New York? Is it 5,000 to rent a one bed? Is that like a real number?
Yeah, that's a like very real number.
What? New York's expensive. That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, no, that's not a joke. And I think it's gone up slightly more because they got rid of broker fees. So now the apartment buildings have to pay the broker. So that has increased rent as well. This
Oh,
was
interesting.
last year or last 2 years. They kind of implemented this new regulation.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty much, let's say you rent a one bedroom for 5,000, and then I convert that into a three bedroom. Depending on, right, I'll have different tiers of the bedrooms, right? The primary, secondary, and the third bedroom. And the third bedroom typically tends to be a home office. Uh, you know, so people don't necessarily have windows, so they have a home office, let's say, not necessarily a bedroom.
Hmm.
Um, and the flex walls are around 1,500 to 2,000, depending on the material you use.
And a flex wall is,
Go ahead.
I'm assuming, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking like that Japanese style, like paper wall, or something you'd see in an
No, no,
office
it's
with
it's
like.
it's 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 like sheetrock. It's considered pressurized walls. So
Oh,
they don't put any like nails into the floors or the ceiling. They just have metal studs, and then they just nail it to the two sides walls. That's it.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Um, Yeah, yeah. And there's some buildings have different requirements, right? Some want a 12-inch gap, which kind of makes it tricky, which will lower your margins. Some people want bookshelves. So you got to kind of really understand what the landlord wants. And then when you're pricing your units to really understand, like, hey, if my wall has a 12-inch gap per this landlord, I'm not going to be able to get full market rent, right? Like I have a freaking hole in my ceiling and there's two people sharing that wall. So, that's going to lower your margins a bit. So the sweet spot is to find landlords that allow um, full walls, full flex walls. And some don't even allow flex walls. So you have to put a bookshelf, which costs a little bit more money. So let's say a flex wall is 1,500, a bookshelf is 2,000. And then sometimes
Oh,
they
and the
don't allow
bookshelf
swing
acts
doors.
as the wall if you were to put a bookshelf in.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not like a bookshelf you go to like, like IKEA and buy a bookshelf. These are like custom made bookshelves that the same people that build the walls are the same people that build the bookshelves. It's a company called Wall to Wall. They have like a monopoly on these walls in New York. Um, and then some buildings don't even allow like swing doors, so you have to put sliding doors
Hmm.
that are attached to the bookshelf. So it just kind of little uniqueness to each build.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
let's say the rent is, yeah, yeah. So let's say the rent is 5,000, the flex wall is 1,500. You're furnishing the full apartment with what? Just a full size bed, and you're not putting like TVs. I'm not putting couches because like that living room space has been converted into a bedroom. Just your bare bones for people to come, put their head down. Desk, dresser, full size bed, lamp. That's pretty much it. Which costs around $3,000 between the three different rooms in total. And then you probably get around from the rent, you probably get around anywhere from a 25 to 30% markup off of the rent as your gross margins.
So if you're renting it for 5,000 each, each, I'm doing math in my head here. Each unit is gonna rent for 2,000, something like that.
Well, you're gonna charge like around. I'm just sorry. I'm just looking. You're gonna charge 1,250 over the 5,000, so it'll come to 6,550 for the whole unit.
Right. So each person renting your, I mean, in this scenario, you
Well, no,
got
but
one.
like each room is priced differently. It's not that because you have a primary
Got it.
bedroom,
Got it.
right?
Got it. Yeah.
The home
Okay.
office bedroom, and then the secondary bedroom. So each room is priced differently.
Yeah. So it'll range from, one's 3,000, one's, 1,000, one of them's four. I don't know if that math makes maths up, but you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
the
So
idea.
so my pricing is typically like 2,250, 2,150, and then 1,600.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Man, that is a really interesting strategy. So at this point, you're making about $2,000, $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and you have put in you have $5,000 rent, which will be covered, and then you've put about $4,500 into it between the wall and then the furnishings. Is there any other expenses that are kind of unseen here that people would have to pay?
No, that's pretty much it to get a room up and running. And then you're
Wow.
pretty much cash flow positive after like I mean if you have to if there's a broker that finds a unit for you versus you finding it through Street Easy, Zillow, whatever, then you have to factor that in.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
brokers fees in New York are 1 month's rent, so imagine putting up 5,000.
Yeah, makes sense. Interesting. I mean, but you're positive in a couple months max. So it's a really
Yeah, yeah.
interesting strategy. What do you run into? I mean, here in Seattle, I'm sure you'd get shut down instantly because of zoning laws and people having a fit with non-conforming use, that kind of thing. What do you run into those issues there in New York, or what is
Well, it's certain buildings allow these, right? And depending on whatever they've gotten approval from the building department, allows for it. Not all buildings allow for flex walls. Maybe their landlord base doesn't allow for flex walls, but it's pretty common practice here in the New York City area.
okay? That makes sense. Let's talk about the pitch. I feel like that would be one of the hard parts about this. I mean, finding a unit that will actually accept this type of strategy, has to be a difficult process. How do you pitch the landlords, and how do you find them in the first place?
Just like through broker networks, I've built up a pretty good broker network, so I'll like reach out to them, and if they have units that they're looking to rent, I'll say, hey, here, Vinny from Hive. Here's my use case. We'd love to partner with you. And then I kind of go into the benefits of why partner with us, right? They get reliable long-term cash flow at full market rent. We eliminate their vacancies. We guarantee full rental income, right? Like they don't have to, and we underwrite our own tenants, so they don't have to worry about, hey, do I have a bad tenant? Do I have to take on those legal fees to evict them? We take on that risk for them.
Mm,
Um, we also just reduce some of their operational costs, right? From turnovers to maintenance to marketing. We kind of handle all of that.
okay. So you do
Maintenance is
cover
kind of shared,
maintenance.
right?
Okay.
Well, some maintenance, right? Like plumbing and electrical, the we expect the landlord to do, but like small little maintenance issues within the apartment we'll handle.
Interesting. Okay. And so with that, let's talk about management. This almost sounds, I mean, I'm sure you have higher turnover than a long-term rental. So it sounds, you're in the midterm, almost short-term space, which is management intensive. How is the management for this kind of deal?
You have to be on top of your game, because it's not like you're running on like an Airbnb platform, right, where everything is kind of done for you. Let's say, right, this is kind of like in-house, so you just have to make sure your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and you're just on top of everything, and making sure you have, your assistants, your back office support, like aligned with, posting your listings, managing the inboxes, and hitting any channel that, where rentals might be at, right? Because you're literally trying to find rentals every month, because your units are kind of turning over a little bit quicker than a 1 year. With that being said, though, like we probably get around 5 new or 4 turnovers a month. So it's not too much. Just because there is a value to our units for tenants, right?
Yeah.
Like the broker fees, the fully furnished, they don't have to put up the flex walls themselves. The roommate matching, right? A lot of people are moving into a lot
That
of the
that's actually
tenants that
what I
we
was gonna
find.
say, is you guys, I mean, you're getting 3 strangers together, so I'm sure that is part of your process, is identifying people who won't, rip each other's hair out. Do you have a lot of deal with a lot of roommate issues, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's like the interesting part. Sometimes you feel like, I'm a father of three right now, and sometimes I feel like I'm
Congratulations.
somebody else's father. Some of the it's just like so childish. I'm like, what do you like, guys? Like, for example, yesterday, my tenant base messaged me because one of the roommates put a hair blow dryer on the couch, and they were upset that they moved it from the coffee table to the couch. I'm like, what are we arguing about here, guys? Like, talking about
Why am I
moving
involved in
a
this
hair.
conversation?
Yeah, yeah. And like, I tell these guys that, like, hey, first remediate things amongst yourselves. Everyone is a working professional. Everyone's an adult in the room, supposedly. Um, but yeah, no, like that is one of the, I would say, more frustrating things about this business is just dealing with some of the nonsense the tenant conflict.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm
Because
sure, I
like,
mean, you've already
why are we
talked.
having these conversations?
Yeah. You've already talked a bit about your tenant base. I mean, some people, it's working professionals who are there temporarily, but you mentioned a lot of your tenant base is younger folk who are just getting their feet under their, feet under their, whatever that phrase is. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. And that maturity level is so different.
yeah, yeah, I can imagine. Nice, man. Well, hey, we've run down the clock. It is time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Starts with education. Could be any form. Could be a book you've read, movie you've seen, conference you've been to. I just need 2 recommendations: one for general life wisdom and one for real estate.
General life wisdom, CNBC. I enjoy watching CNBC. Real estate, that's a good one. I'm still learning myself. I discovered a new AI tool that's hyper focused on real estate. It's called Real AI. And that helps me with a lot of my analysis and just deep diving further into markets as well.
Nice, man. I'm always down for new AI tools. I use Claude. Well, I have a subscription to pretty much every single one of them, but Claude is the one that I use the most often, and then Perplexity for research. But something that's specifically oriented towards AI, I'm definitely down to check out. All right, next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Vineet who is just getting started, who is maybe still back at that, working at that bank. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Don't listen to people that just keep saying no to you. Like, you know what you're able to do, you know what you're capable of doing. Sometimes the people that keep saying no to you have no idea
Yep.
because they're too
Not,
afraid.
I would extend that, and I would say don't listen to anybody unless they've accomplished what you want to accomplish. Unless they've done what you're
Yeah.
trying to do, don't listen to them. They're, most people, that the vast majority of people are very well-meaning. It's just that they bring their own insecurities, their own fears into their conversation with you, and it has nothing to do with
Yep.
reality. And so, and if somebody has achieved what you want to achieve, they'll give you good advice. People who are successful, they don't want to bring anybody down. They want other people to succeed as well. And so you can listen to those people, but
Yep.
don't listen to people who haven't been there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, next question. I'm actually going to skip this one. Usually we ask what metro you're most excited about investing in today, but you're in New York, and so I'm sure you're going to say New York City. Actually, let's dive into that. What area of New York are you most excited about expanding your portfolio?
Well, I would say I'm very excited, not really in New York, but outside of New York in Jersey City.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jersey City. It's part of Jersey City, Journal Square just got rezoned.
Hmm.
So there's towers that are going up, and supposedly by 2050, 2060, it will look like Times Square.
Nice.
Which
That's
I
cool.
think is very interesting because for my business, I'm able to probably possibly partner with these new landlords that need to stabilize their buildings quicker. And since I have flexible lease terms, rent by the room, that I might be able to help them along the way and help myself.
Cool, man. Nice. Yeah, that's it's interesting. I love new developments, new very large scale developments are always interesting because they're the way that they do the planning is just, it's so much better than than old zoning and old use planning. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see
yeah.
how that works out.
And these
All right.
buildings are like 1,200 unit buildings.
Oh, geez, that's crazy. All right,
Yeah,
next
yeah.
question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller, in your case, the landlord. What is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Honestly, just broker relationships. These guys are like tuned into the landlord, their landlord's needs, and they have a bunch of different landlords that they work with. So, and they kind of do the legwork for you, right? They kind of do the initial pitching, say, hey, I worked with Vinny on this deal over here, and they can kind of you can use them as a reference as well, right? So my favorite source is the broker. Sorry.
Yeah, I feel like that is very unique to New York. I here in Seattle, we do not have brokers for apartments or leasing
All right.
apartments, and so it's interesting when you hear somebody from New York, and I know that's very very prevalent there. Is that you guys have brokers who will place people into multifamily, and so yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, pretty much every time something goes wrong, and that's when we get to learn a lesson. So, what was the deal that went a little bit sideways for you, and what was the lesson you pulled from it?
I would say it was my very first tenant. I didn't screen them. I went
Mm.
by, hey, they live in New York City. They have to be a working professional. She stated that her employer's paying her rent. It turned out to be the biggest nightmare of this journey. But as all like learning less, like that challenge of trying to evict that tenant, um, and they pretty much started abusing drugs, and just so I couldn't even fill the other rooms. So I was just sitting on like 6,000 losses every month, which eats quick. And it was during like at the tail end of COVID. So obviously, the courts are backed up with evictions. So started screening my tenants. I didn't really just think like, hey, everyone that lives in New York is a working professional.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a mistake you only make once. I've definitely, I think the first duplex I bought, I had just the nightmare tenant, and once that happens once, you're not going to let it happen again. That's for sure. And I do want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
kind of highlight in there that kind of falls into the same bucket as always do your due diligence, always follow your checklist. You know, this has been echoed across so many episodes. I've told you guys myself that I've made this mistake. When you're identifying a property, when you're doing the underwriting, when you're doing your due diligence, do every single step. Make sure you check it off, because the one that you don't do is the one that's going to come and bite you in the ass. So, all right,
Yeah.
moving us on to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
They can just email me. My email is Vineet, V for Victor, INEET .DUTTA at hiveny.com.
Awesome. I will put that link in the show notes. So if y'all want to reach out, all you got to do is click the little more in the description. It's going to pull down that full description, and in there you can find Benny's links. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks, Gabe. Good talking to you.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe, with therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next.